All right, welcome to Sports Steady Radio. And we got a topic to talk about real quick. I'm going to get into this Shedeur Sanders situation. There's been some reports. There's some more information coming out that has suggested that Shedeur might have been blacklisted, and probably for good reason. But um, we know that the draft happened and came and went. Shedeur dropped to the fifth round. Even leading up to the draft, there were many GMs out there that didn't have a first round grade on Shedeur Sanders, but many people believe that he should have went in the first round. Probably some people thought he should have went number one overall. I didn't think so. I was not shocked that he fell out of the first round. I thought he would probably go somewhere between second and third round, just based off of the fact that the quarterback class was very weak. But then you started seeing a lot of other QBs falling off the board, and then you're like, oh shit, would he even get drafted at all? But now we are finding out why that may have happened. So there's a couple articles here that we're going to get into that I'm going to respond to. So Shedeur Sanders, once projected a first round pick, experienced a dramatic slide to the fifth round, where he was selected by the Cleveland Browns. Reports indicate that multiple NFL owners instructed teams to remove Sanders from their draft boards entirely. This decision was reportedly influenced by concerns over Sanders' attitude during the pre-draft process, including his interviews and comments about bringing a new culture to locker rooms. Additionally, Deion Sanders played a role in shaping perceptions as well, with some teams viewing the family dynamic as a potential distraction. So, no shocker, of course, because even if you guys remember during the, I think one of the pre-draft workouts, or I don't know if it was the combine or a workout, not the combine, a workout of some sorts, where Sanders shows up and kind of gets in the face of one of, I guess he told people don't listen to him, or like Sanders was all over the place. He was like right there. Which was, and I think it was a Colorado Pro Day, so he was the coach, so he was allowed to be there. But it kind of was like, is this what you're gonna get if you draft Shedeur Sanders? You're gonna get Deion wanting to be up in the space. Now, do I think it would be that bad if they drafted him? Probably not, because considering the fact that Deion is the head coach of the Colorado team, so he would have to be busy with that on Saturdays, and probably wouldn't have time to be following around Shedeur. But there was definitely a lot of red flags, despite, because people like to look at the stats. Oh, he put up all these yards. Well, of course, they didn't run the ball hardly. They used Shedeur to throw because Deion wanted to beef up his stats to get him in the running for the Heisman. Deion focused on that big time. But the one thing that you have to consider here, and I know people like to use excuses like, oh, well, they took Colorado to 9 wins. For a couple years back, they were a 1-win team and all this other stuff. And I get all that. But you have to consider that Colorado brought in an all-star cast of coaching. Did we forget that? Like, when they came over and Deion re-ramped that whole roster and he used the transfer portal. He also hired some really good coaches, some guys who were head coaches, offensive coordinator. I know this year they brought in like Warren Sapp and a few other guys. So he brought some guys in. I think even Brian Leftwich was over there for a bit, or for last season, I believe, or he got there this year. But he's went out and got some names. So of course, if you see guys, the team is going to get better. And then they had Travis Hunter, who was the best player in the country. And even Travis Hunter being the number one recruit or number one talented guy coming out of high school, decided to go to Jackson State, where he could have probably went to Florida State or any other program. So it's not that surprising that they did have a good year. They played in a very weak conference that doesn't really emphasize defense, and they were an offensive type team, so they took advantage. But this is the year that the pressure is going to be on. Deion got his big contract. But will Colorado even win more than 9 games this year? They might. They could potentially lose less games. Win less games than they did last year. And but it's still early. Of course, we're only in April, whatever, things can happen. But so with Shedeur Sanders, because this is what the topic is about, we're gonna play some clips here. Now, one of the clips that had rubbed GMs the wrong way, right? Let's get to that one first. This is a clip that may have contributed to why owners were like, get him off the board. I'm going to play two clips here, but the first one is Shedeur himself at the media day, combine media session. And this is what Shedeur said.
Change the franchise. If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over. And I've done it over and over and over. So it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me.
All right, so I'm cutting it short here to respond. So he says, change the franchise, the culture, and you should see what I've done. But you haven't done anything. You came into the NFL, I think he's 13-12 as a college quarterback. I mean, Brock Purdy won 30 college quarterback games, and he was like, well, late round, 7th round. I mean, you don't have any signature wins, right? So based off this first 10-second clip alone, you're probably thinking, man, this guy's out of his mind, right? This is not hate. This is, and I hate that this whole thing turned into like a race thing, because you don't need to race bait this. You don't need to race this up. Just hear what he's talking about, and you can see why NFL owners and teams like, come on, you haven't done anything. You're one game over 500 as a college quarterback at a relatively subpar conference, and you have no signature wins under your belt. Brock Purdy won 30 games in college at Iowa State. He also went to 4 bowl games, right? And this is Brock Purdy, who was not looked at as anybody that great coming out, even though people say the guy has skills, he's talented, but he wasn't sexy on the board. So this is like, okay, we get that you're confident, but then you're trying to say, I'm going to come in and change your culture. Like, dude, teams don't want that. They're not looking for that. The NFL already acknowledged that the GMs had already acknowledged that this was a very weak class, especially at the quarterback position. Very weak. Even Cam Ward going number 1 is like, it's still, he's not like your typical top quarterback. Like if he was in any other draft that had decent quarterbacks, these guys probably all fall out of the first round. But so when you talk like that, and then then the next part of this is probably going to be really like, we're probably rubbing people the wrong way, like, huh? So let's play the next part of this.
You think I'm worried about what critics say or what people got to say? You know who my dad is?
Right there. You think I'm worried about what critics say? Do you know who my dad is? That's another part. It's like, oh, so what, are you going to call your daddy every time something goes wrong? Or, because remember, he's been under his daddy's thumb for the longest time. He's never been really challenged, right? And he had a legitimate coach to get up in his ass, and which will happen in the NFL, because when you get to the NFL, it's not about you anymore. Yes, at Jackson State, it was about you. Colorado was about you. But at NFL, it's not going to be about you. And he's already talking like he is coming in as the starting quarterback already. Like he's coming in as the franchise player. You can't come in like that. And it's almost crazy, because you would think, being the son of a Hall of Fame NFL player, being around guys who coached in the league, right? Because up there in Colorado, like I said, Deion had all these coaches around him, all these guys who have coached in the league, all these guys there was many staff that joined his roster. You telling me not one of those guys like, hey man, he couldn't really give him the real deal on what's going to happen when you get to the NFL? It was almost like they didn't have any talk. You would think that he would be the most prepared for the NFL draft. Even if that was your attitude, you would have thought that he would at least understood politics of the NFL, like playing the game. I'm not saying they gotta come in and be all preppy, because guys were themselves. If you look at around the league with the when guys got drafted and when guys found out what team they were going to, a lot of the players were like real loud and excited about it. They were all like, like how they were on the block. So, but when they got drafted, when they was leading up to the process, they understood this is a job interview. The NFL Combine, the NFL Media Day is a job interview. When you go into meetings to talk to teams, it's a job interview. And that's how you should have treated it, like that. Not saying that, he can't be himself because he's black and he's just too cocky and too hood. Like, that's all that is nonsense. You go to a job interview, anybody out there, I don't care what race you are. You walk into a job interview in a position where you have some experience, but you never had an experience at the top level. And you're trying to get drafted to a position where only a small percentage of men can get to, right? Not like you go into a job interview for McDonald's or Burger King where anybody can get hired. We're talking about an NFL where only a small percentage of people even get a chance to sniff the NFL. Then you're trying to be a quarterback, which is one of either 32 or 64, depending on if you become a backup or not. Jobs in the whole world. So you got to understand where you're at. And when the lack of awareness for Shedeur Sanders, I blame Deion mostly because Deion should have prepared him. And look, you can say, well, we pull up clips from Deion Sanders back in his day where he was talking with the chain out and all that stuff too. Deion was trusted, but he was highly talented, right? Deion was a game changer. People knew it. It was well known. So he backed it up. So it was a bit different. And plus you got to understand today's climate. Like, and then I heard another comparison. People say, "Oh well, Johnny Manziel was an alcoholic. He was out of control party, and he still went in the first round." Well, maybe NFL teams said, "Well, we're not going to have another Johnny Manziel situation here. Johnny got away with it. That doesn't mean we're going to let you get away with it. Doesn't mean that it had to be racial. It just means that, look, this dude, we made a mistake with Johnny Manziel. We didn't see the signs. So now our eyes are wide open here, and we see there's something that's not looking right here. We're going to stay away from it, at least early on." When you go into a scenario, you got to have respect for the institution. This is not like, laying down and submitting to the white man. This has nothing to do with that. This is about understanding you're trying to go into a profession. Now, maybe, look, Shedeur is spoiled. His dad is prime time. Maybe he doesn't understand what that means to humble yourself. And he feel like he doesn't have to because he already has what he wants. A lot of those other guys, they know that if they screw up or if they don't get drafted the way they expect it, there's a difference between that and probably working at Amazon or UPS. Shedeur knows, well, even the worst case scenario, he still got money. He's still rich. He still can go back home and maybe go do something else. So maybe that part didn't hit him, right? You need a bit of humility when you're going into the next profession. It has nothing to do with race. And I hate that this became racialized by a lot of people. I hate it because this could have been a great lesson to just have it. Then you had these people in the media like Mel Kiper and trying to insinuate racializing it. And then you had like the Ryan Clarks and the Achos and the RG3s and all this stuff. Everybody, because this is like a sensational media, like we got to jump out and claim it's racial. Stephen A. Smith to a whole bunch of people. We have to racialize it because it's racist. Even though a whole bunch of black QBs, a whole bunch of black players got drafted. Instead of just being honest and explaining the full picture. Right? Just explain the full picture. Like, explain the exact timeline on why this happened. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? And it's so dangerous because when we have real situations of racism, people are laughing at it now. Because I don't believe that. Because we sensitize this so much now with these athletes and sports. These guys are making millions of dollars. I'm not saying that you can make a lot of money and not experience racism, because you can. But are we really going to throw racism in the NFL draft process? I just don't see it. It ain't there. And when it keeps getting thrown out like that, it's almost like when a woman is always crying that she's been assaulted or lying about it. When there's real victims out there that have been assaulted. It's like the boy who cried wolf. At some point, people are just going to tune it out. They're going to tune it out. You know? And that is the sad part about this. You know? That's the sad part about this. Let's finish the rest of this. This is another 12 seconds of Shedeur's media session. Then we're going to go into what the reports are about what NFL teams were saying. Play this.
They hated on him too. So it's like it's almost normal. Without people hating, it's not normal for us. So we like diversity. We like everything that comes with the name. That's why we are who we are.
He said we like diversity. I think he meant to say adversity. But this is like watching that. You're like, you listen to that. There's no way you're thinking, man, this is gonna be my quarterback. This is the guy I want to hand the keys to the franchise to. There's no way. Right? I don't care how talented you are. You talking like that? I don't want no part of you. At least not as my starter QB. Remember, now if he was a wide receiver, a running back, even Deion, if he was the same position as Deion, if he was a defensive back, he probably gets away with that talk. Right? But the quarterback position, it's like a sacred position. Like, it's looked at, that's the guy that is the face of your franchise. And it comes with high responsibility. And you got quarterbacks around the league who are, like, you're seeing now more teams are willing to put their keys in the hands of different type of QBs, like the Lamar Jackson types, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and these guys. Then you got some of the veteran guys like Geno and a few others. So if you got the talent, you can get the position. But you got to understand the professionalism that comes with it. The responsibility of being an NFL quarterback. And Shedeur doesn't understand that. And like I said, I don't think it's fully his fault as far as like, because he's not doing anything bad, right? He's not a criminal. He's not breaking the law. He's not doing that stuff. So this is basically a parent, a Deion Sanders not preparing him for the next level. Not telling him, hey, this is how it's going to go down. This is how you should purport yourself. I'm not saying you got to get rid of your aura, but get in the building first. Get there. Get the teammates to trust you. Then you could be, the way you want to be. But you got to prove yourself. Everywhere you go, the next level, you got to prove yourself. And he hasn't really been asked to prove himself because he's been handed everything. And this goes back to the spoiled position, right? Jackson State comes in, knows he's going to be a starter. Colorado comes in, hey, look, I don't know who the quarterback is here. You might as well hit the transfer portal because my son's coming, he's going to be a starter. Right? No matter what. No challenge, no competition, no QB challenge. Now he gets to the NFL, coming in the Cleveland Browns as the fourth, fifth string QB. He's going to have to fight for the first time in his life, and he's not prepared because he never had to prepare. And these are the situations here that are really going to make and break you if you could survive in the NFL. Now, one of the radio hosts, I believe, Boomer, on WFAN, he explained why he believes, I guess he had word or he spoke to some people in the NFL. They said that pretty much he was blacklisted. Let's play it.
And they took him off. They took him off. And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. Shedeur Sanders just torpedoed himself. His attitude off the field at the combine, his dad didn't help him either. You know, he was on podcast talking about, this is my son. If I can get him to where I want to get him to, I'm going to do that. But, you know, when you listen to this kid talk right prior or at the combine about if you want a new culture in your locker room, I'm the guy to do that. I can turn it around. I mean, he's very high on himself. And I think he was very off-putting to many, many coaches and general managers in the league. And I'm telling you right now, and I know this after talking to 3 different personnel people in the NFL this weekend, they didn't even have him on their board. They took him off. And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. I don't want this entitled person on our team.
There you have it. And I believe that. I mean, that's pretty much how it went. I believe that's exactly what happened. And the only person that could be blamed for this is Shedeur himself, right? And Deion. And then, like I said, Shedeur has to take responsibility, of course, because he's an adult. But I also put some blame on Deion because I think Deion, being a former NFL player, Hall of Famer, should know and understand, should have prepared his son for what's to come in that process. It seemed like Shedeur was not prepared at all for the NFL process. He just felt like, I'll show up, I'm going to be the top pick because I'm primetime son and I'm just me. And look, everybody got behind him and they were hyping him up, telling him how great he was, and he even had a little back and forth between him and Cam Ward about who was better. And Cam was like, hey, I think he said I'm generational or whatever, because Shedeur was like, I'm legendary. And so they had a little back and forth with that. And because Cam is a talker too. That's why I didn't understand the whole, oh, it's because he talks and he's too cocky. Cam was cocky. Right? Cam Ward is cocky. Many of the other players that got drafted are cocky. They're confident. As you should be. You should be confident in your abilities. Right? You should be. As an athlete. But do you go into an interview and say, you know, talk, oh, you got to take me, I'm going to change your culture, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you just can't do that. You can't do that. Now, and the one thing that, and then I, like, people mentioned even Tom Brady, they brought him up. I mean, Brady had a terrible combine, but Brady, even as a 6th round pick, was confident too. What he told Robert Kraft, this is the best decision your franchise ever made. And this is a guy who almost got cut from New England. If you go watch back the clips, it wasn't even guaranteed that Brady would make the roster. So, and luckily Bill was like, okay, we're going to carry an extra quarterback. And he ended up carrying Brady on, and then the rest is history. Bledsoe gets hurt. But Brady very well could have got cut. And he made that comment. Look how foolish he would have looked if he would have, say if something would happen, he got cut and never got a chance to show himself again. Because you really only get one shot. Right? You only get your first impression is, in many cases, you're only going to get one shot. Shedeur's going to have one chance. And most of that's going to be his humbleness. Because everybody in the NFL got an arm. Everybody could throw. Everybody has the basic tool set that gets you to the pros. You're not going to be the only athletic player. You're not going to be the only guy that can run in the pocket. You're not going to be the only guy that can throw 60, 70 yards. You're now in a pool of guys who can do everything you can do. Maybe some things you could do a little bit better. Maybe some things you can't do a little bit better than the next guy. But everybody, for the most part, has this enough skill set to be at the NFL level. So you're not special. What separates you is going to be your hard work, how you deal with coaches, how you are around your teammates, and how you are as a professional. And he has none of that right now. He has to figure that out between now and the time he has to report to Cleveland. Because when it comes down to it, and if it's a close call, and they're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, this guy, he's a great guy in the locker room. Teammates like him. This guy, not so much. People think he's a little too mouthy. Okay, we're just going to cut him. Right? It could come down to margins like that. And then once you get cut, people going to know why. Why did he get cut? What happened? And this story coming out now about this already doesn't look good for him. So that means that the likelihood if he does get cut and he doesn't learn his lesson between now and when he reports to Cleveland, people are going to start wondering why. What happened? What did he do? How was he? Because it ain't going to be about what he could do on the field on Sundays, because you're not really expected to hit on Sundays, right? To play on Sunday. Not at this moment. Right now it's about you in the development stage. Can I develop this quarterback? Can learn? Will he learn the NFL? Will he learn the system? Will he learn the playbook? That's the first thing that they want to know. Yes, we know you got skills. We know you could throw the ball. We've seen the clips. We watched you. We watched the tape. We know. But are you coachable? Because now that your dad is not coaching you, your dad is not around, can you be coached by someone else? These are all the questions that are going to be answered, that have to be answered. And he might have one shot. Maybe he'll get a second chance. Maybe. But because I think the Sanders name will help him potentially get another chance. But I say he got really one shot to try to become a starter in this league within the next 5 years. Within the next 3-4 years. But if he blows his first chance, there will be no second chance to be a starter. He'll probably, at best, be a backup or out of the league. And all because of the attitude. That attitude thing is real, folks. It's not some, and you can say whatever you want. You can make excuses. You can compare him to Eli. You can say, oh, well, Eli this, or Johnny Manziel that, and all these other people. No, it's going to be on him. It's on him. Every situation is different. We got to stop with the comparisons. He wasn't as skilled on college level as Johnny Manziel anyway. And Johnny washed out. So you're making that comparison, then you're almost giving validity to the NFL teams to pass. Because they're like, oh, well, if that's your comparison, then we don't want to make the same mistake twice. So that's why you got to stop with the comparison. You're not doing Shedeur any favors by trying to compare him to Johnny Manziel or he was this and trying to make it that. Like, these guys are ultra. And then you got to understand another thing too. These owners are fucking conservative as hell. They're very highly conservative. They don't want to be hearing about race stuff, race baiting, and all that other shit. They don't want to hear that. That's another thing. They feel, if I bring this guy in and he doesn't play, I got to hear from half of my fan base, well, you didn't play him because he's black. They don't want to hear that shit. They're not going to want to deal with that. These are ultra top 1% billionaire owners that are conservative in nature. They don't want to hear that. They're not going to want to hear that. And that's why with all this stuff going on, you guys not even doing him no favors, even if you call yourself fans of Shedeur Sanders. I say stick to the root of the issues on why he might not have been drafted. Stick to that first. And then once you diagnose that and peel through it, then you understand. You don't have to race bait it. Because in this case, it ain't there. It just ain't there. Not even 1% there. But I don't know. That's all I got on this topic. We'll see what happens. We'll see if Shedeur makes the roster. There was some reports that he may not even make it to week 1 because of there's so many quarterbacks on the roster. But we'll see. We will see. And yep. So let me know what you think about this on if you guys are on Twitch watching. We are on I'm gonna be uploading this to YouTube. So you can come check that out. YouTube.com/SportsSteadyLive. No, Sports Steady Radio, excuse me. This is going up on Sports Steady Radio. But we're live on Sports Steady on Twitch. We'll try to go live once. Every time something comes up, I'll go live. All right? Or maybe I'll do one live and one. Either way, I'm going to clip it and always upload to either one of the Sports Steady channels, depending on what it is. If it's basketball, NFL. Shit, I even got a baseball channel now. We even got a hockey channel. Even though I don't really watch hockey, I haven't watched it recently. I like hockey. I like the Boston Bruins. But I haven't watched much hockey, at least this season yet. But I will get on it. I promise. But yeah. Anyway, that's all we got. I will be back for more. But let me know what you think about this. Do you believe that Shedeur Sanders was blackballed? Do you believe it was racial? I mean, look, if you honestly believe it was racial, and I'm not going to try to deny your feelings on that. Look, you have every right to believe that, but is it really an honest belief, or are you just saying that because he's black and that's the only evidence I need? Like, if you're serious about that and you really believe that, I would like to hear from you why you believe that and provide some context to why. Instead of just yapping, oh, it's racist because it is. But I don't believe that. I just don't see it. But yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, just like I'm entitled to mine. And also, if you believe that Shedeur deserved to be blackballed because of his response to the combine and the way he acted and not, learning to be professional in the NFL level. And I also believe that Deion Sanders plays a huge role on the lack of preparation Shedeur had for the combine. And I think that's an underrated point that no one's going to talk about because people are afraid. I think one thing about people, they don't want to say Deion's a Hall of Fame great, so no one's going to question Deion's fatherhood, right? Because then we talk about father upbringing. And then when you get into that category, people also go, oh, what do you mean? You're trying to question the black man's father? Like, you know what I'm saying? So people don't want to go there. But I think it's an honest conversation, and it brings a full picture to Shedeur's lack of preparation for the NFL Combine, for the session, for the interviews. Right? I think that all of that starts at the head, and Deion is the head of that snake. So that's where that's my opinion on it. All right, guys. I'm out of here. Sports page run by sports fans. Peace.